Now the training part. With my training, so the father, of osteopathy, his name is Andrew Taylor Still, and his term he's used is structure dictates function. All function, not just how well you sit, but how well you digest, how well your heart moves, how well your hormones flow through. Structure dictates function. If you want to think about it in a more gross term, you can think about a car or a building, okay? If this wall went this way, and I put a roof on top, well, it's only a matter of time before that roof ends up over there. If I have this, in quotations, in my body, and I go out running and lifting or whatever, and I'm gonna do my hikes, my ski, eventually my roof, whatever that is, falls forward. But it's not just structurally. If this is forward, let's say this is my, my thoracic, okay? So this is that. That's called kyphosis. With kyphosis, I have a lot of pressure in the back of my spine. All those discs are pushing out. Now my spine can't function properly. In the front, I've got lungs, heart, stomach, and liver. They're just a little bit important. But now I'm putting them in a condensed space. So it's like if somebody came up to you and said, hey, I want you to do that job, and then they held you and didn't let you go and do your job. You're like, well, how do you want me to do my job? It's the same thing with your viscera. Hey, I want you to breathe. They can't breathe because the structure's not there to do it. So before you go anything, you need to think about what's the best thing for my structure. It's going to be different for every single one of you. It needs to do something different. You have different types of postures. You have what's called a sway back. You have what's called a lordotic curve. You have what I just did, like kyphosis, forward head posture. That's very prevalent today. And then you have the good posture. Good posture should mean that my auditory canal lines up with my acromion, lines up with my hip, lines up with my malleosis, my ankle. In general, it should line up all the time. But I shouldn't have to hold myself there, right? So I shouldn't have to walk around the entire time. Because after a while, oh, it's great, oh, it's tiring, I can't do that anymore. You should have a program that just kind of puts you there. You should just automatically go to good posture. Again, now we have good posture, I can just move around nice and efficiently. If you have these postures, in any sense, you need to correct this posture to the degree you have it, not before, but definitely as an emphasis before you move on to something harder. If you don't, you're going to continually load the body. So this one again I'm going to talk about, I'm going to continually load the body eventually, herniation. So the exercise you do now will have repercussions, not during the workout, but like 5 years later, 10 years later. All of a sudden, like, why does my hip hurt all the time? Well, it's because you had bad posture and you went running for a long time. Now your labrum's torn, okay? After a while, it just hurts. I give it an example of a faucet dripping. So I've got a faucet dripping in my sink, right? Let's just, for example, it's a metal basin, okay? And it starts to drip. That's annoying, but it's not that big of a deal. I come back 20 years later, that faucet dripping has now rusted it. Maybe there's a little bit of hole. It's the same thing in the body. Eventually, it's going to wear away at your body. So you need to think about where my body is and what can I do. Our body is based on what's called biotensegrity. Tensegrity is a tensegrity is a term coined by Buckminster Fuller, who was an architect back in like the 50s, I think, who designed structures based off tension and compression. So this is more Newtonian, like structure. I put this here, I put this here, I put this here. Tensegrity is the Golden Gate Bridge. So Golden Gate Bridge is like a big, long span. If I were to build a Golden Gate Bridge with like this idea, I'd have to put all these blocks throughout the entire way, and it'd be a pain in the butt because I have to haul the material out there. Instead, I use tensegrity, excuse me. Now, I used to put some pillars, I put some girders that hold in place. The bridge is flexible and moves, which allows me to build a bridge all the way across. So think of that bridge as, an example is your spine. I have some positions, my pelvis, my thoracic, that hold in place, but my spine is flexible. That in essence is biotensegrity. So you want to always think about how's my body balanced. So not just how well my posture is, well, how's it balanced? So again, if I have some sort of just rotation here, well, my shoulder's bad. That's obvious, right? But that also causes a pain in my hip. That causes a pain in this opposite hip. And it causes a pain in this opposite ankle. Just because the structure pushes it differently. I had this fancy thing that I forgot to bring. But if you see it, think about, you guys remember the Olympics in China? The dome that they built for the swimming? Remember? That's tensegrity. That is infinitely scalable. So I just put a little girder here, I put a little thing here. It doesn't touch, but the tension from both parts and position hold the whole thing in place. That's us. That's how we work. So that's a pelvis. That's a pelvis right there. So that's your quad muscles. Hamstrings are behind. Your internal, external rotators of your hip. Your iliolumbar ligaments. That's how my pelvis is held in place. Not by putting something on something else. It wouldn't handle. Then I have a pelvic floor underneath. That's the spine in between I just talked about. That's the leg. Of course, that's the whole human body. That in general is how we're held together. With that, we also have two sets of muscles. We have pit muscles. They're deeper muscles. They're usually called structural muscles. But more importantly, in terms of biomechanics, they prepare, they imagine, and they think before I do something. So, before I went just to reach for that book, my brain went, and it turned a bunch of stuff on so I could reach down properly to do this. Let's just say I had like my spine was severed, right? I can't reach down because I have no communication to my arm, right? I can't do it. But you can have that in small ways. So let's say I have that bulge I just talked about. Well, now my brain wants to communicate down to my foot to walk, but I have a bulge, I can't really walk that well, right? It'll do it because I'm telling it to do it, but it's gonna do it the best way it knows how, which in that position is compensation. Compensation equals injury later on. After the pit muscles, you have what's called dam muscles. Do, act, and move, okay? So these are the big muscles everybody knows about. The lats, the pulling, the squatting, all that stuff. But those are just secondary muscles compared to the pit muscles. These small muscles, my spine muscles, my deep rotators of my hip, these need to be paid attention to first. So in your program, you think about, how can I pay attention to these muscles first? My spinal muscles, my deep rotators of my hip, my deep gastroc down here. How do I pay attention to these type of things? From there, the rest comes a little bit easier. In your programming, this is how you want to think about it. This is a linear progression. It's going to mix and match, but this is a good way for you to start thinking about it. First and foremost, I need flexibility and freedom. Without flexibility and freedom, I don't have flexibility and freedom and I can't move properly. From there, I need stability. I need to be able to hold myself in place to do it properly. Now we think about strength. Too often people, and then power, of course. Too often people just sort of do the flexibility. They don't care about freedom too much. Stability is sort of, and they jump straight to strength. They go to the gym, they start to lift weights, they go to a run, right? They've completely missed all this stuff. Sure, your body's gonna do it. But then again, 5 years down the line, because I didn't give myself that space, that freedom, now my body's like, okay, well, yeah. Lumbar herniation, or MCL sprain, or whatever it could be. You always have to think about that. I put this picture on there for a couple of different reasons. I know it's really small in yours, I really apologize. To see, so left is more superficial muscles, right's more deep, okay? It's the best picture I could find. You can see all the different muscles, the directions they go, the fascia, it's going to come back in a little bit, that's connected with it. So the white part you see is fascia, but there's more. And then also how the pit muscles are deeper and how they work. So you can see it as an example of a pit muscle and a dam muscle. My lateral calcaneus, my heel, goes to my lateral gastroc, my lateral calf, goes to my bicep femoris, it's one of the hamstrings, goes to, you can't see it here, but I have an ischial tuberosity, my pelvis, goes to all this deep fascia here, and it can either go deeper up to my head, or more superficial out to my arm. So we're not just a calf or a lat or a pec. We're a combination of movements. We're a combination. When I mentioned fascia, so again, the white part definitely is fascia, okay? But fascia is numerous things. Fascia is the endomysium, perimysium, endomysium, that cover the muscle. It's the skin that covers the bone. It's the skin that covers the fascia. It's your tendons, it's your ligaments, it's your dura mater. It's everything that covers your entire body. So it's impossible for you not to work out and not to train the fascia. But we don't think about training the fascia. We think about, oh, I want to activate my glute, okay? That's big now. I just want to activate my glute. Well, Should I think about the glute or should I think about the whole complex, like you see here, from my hip down to my foot? Don't you think about that? Yep, absolutely you need to think about that. So when you train your body, you start to think about the lines that you're working with, not just the actual areas you're working with.